welcome to Eden+Fractal, number 31. Hope that everybody's doing well. We've been having very exciting discussions about the future of Eden+Fractal software and all sorts of cool stuff and the proposals going on in the community. Perry was making a new proposal. Gavriel also made a proposal about Sociocratic Governance for proposal discussions in Eden+Fractal. I'll briefly share the screen. But yeah, thanks everybody for joining us. We're going to break into breakout rooms in 3 or 4, maybe 5 minutes. Hope everybody's doing well. Thanks for watching. And I'll share the screen to show the proposals that we might discuss after the Eden+Fractal during cagendas and cagendas. Does anybody want to say hi or share any thoughts first at this time? Okay, cool. I'll share the screen. Was something you're saying there, Elias?
Good morning, Dan, again. Question for you on the numbering for the meetings. Do you have a date attached to them? The 31 is not really there's no date attached to it. So
yes, thank you for asking, and good morning to you. Yeah, so right now it's just Eden+Fractal 31. The date today is January 4th. So I'll say Happy New Year too. This is our first one for the new year, bringing in 2023. So right now, I mean, people can look at the dates if they do a little bit of calendar searching, but it's every Wednesday. We've been doing it for the past 31 weeks, basically. So perhaps that might be a good thing to add into different show notes or announce in the beginning or something, though, to help everybody be sure.
If I may piggyback on Elias, that's one of my issues, and that needs to be changed, because even when it comes to Eden and similar videos and stuff, you have to actually go into the calendar each time and try to estimate when was it done, because even if it's set days, they change sometimes. And it's important in connection with discussions and whatever, did they see that video before they mentioned these things or what? And dating always, or YouTube particularly, and these things, it's got to be dated, whatever we put up. That's my opinion. It's about accountability, transparency. Thanks.
Yep, sounds good. Thanks, Lenny. And I agree. I'll make a note to include the date in the show notes for each of the videos that I post, so people can easily refer to it there. And then I'll also try to mention it at the beginning of episodes when I give a little welcoming intro too. And then if there's anywhere else you think we should include it, then feel free, of course, to edit anywhere or include it. And then I'll also be happy to edit wherever we think is appropriate as well. I'll also briefly say that we have a new person with us. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, Mpalanye, but welcome. Thank you for joining, and feel free to introduce yourself if you'd like to. We'd love to hear from you. I've seen you posting on the chats here and there, and appreciate you joining. Hope you're doing well.
You just call him Victor.
Victor? Thanks, Jesse. Sounds good. I'm assuming that Victor works with the bees. I think I've seen Victor working with the bees before.
Yeah.
Okay, great. It is 16 UTC, so it's time to break down the breakout rooms, but I figure first, I'll just give a real quick overview of topics, because we have several topics for cagendas and cagendas afterwards. So I'll just briefly share my screen for like 30 seconds and just show people what we'll discuss after the Eden+Fractal meeting, or after the Eden+Fractal game in about an hour from now. So I'll share it now. Everybody should be able to see it now, the consortium page, correct? So this is ever since meeting 28, or when we passed the proposal that Tadas proposed for optimizing breakout rooms after the Eden+Fractal and the moderation guidelines and stuff like that, and what we've been working on for the cagendas and cagendas for the past few months. Basically, we're posting polls into the Eden+Fractal consortium, and we make proposals. We make polls for proposals and discussion themes, and then whichever ones gets more votes are ones that we aim to prioritize and discuss in the hour after the breakout rooms. So the one with the most votes right now is a proposal that Gavriel made this week. Thank you very much, Gavriel, for joining for the first time last week and sharing a lot of really helpful thoughts, including this proposal. I think it's really interesting, and I'm looking forward to getting into this more about the basics of Sociocratic Governance for proposal discussions in Eden+Fractally. So if Gavriel still has the most votes then, which I think that he will, then he'll have a 5-minute time slot to introduce this in about an hour from now. And then I also made a few quick proposals too, following up on Vlad's mission about fostering collaboration and building personal connections amongst EOS community members. And I also added a part about creating public goods there. So that's a proposal as well that we can vote on if we have time after discussing the sociocratic governance. And then I also made a couple of just quick ones too about 2022 year in review and vision for 2023, because it's a happy new year. And I also made a quick one about Eden+Fractal participant agreement and the Eden+Fractal MSIG that we can get into if we have time, or if not, we can also discuss those in future weeks. So I just figured I'd show that. It'd be helpful because this is an exciting new progress, and I figured it was worth taking a couple extra minutes. Does anybody have any comments or thoughts or questions before we head into the breakout rooms? Okay, I guess that's a no. I see Lenny wrote, he'd recommend the proposals be considered for discussion during weekly meeting time after breakout rooms, so we could put it on consortium. Minimum day before meeting. I agree. Sorry, I put those proposals up at kind of the last minute. It's been a busy time, but I'll try to put them up sooner in the future. And then in the future too, we don't need to go through the proposals every week at the beginning of it, but I figure it's helpful since we're just starting the process. And so thank you, Lenny, for sharing those thoughts. And I see Victor. So thanks, Jesse, for the introduction and thumbs up. So thanks, guys. Perry?
Yeah, I just submitted a proposal, but I don't see it. Is there a lag time associated?
Did you refresh the page?
I have, and I'm on the
might
community page.
Might take 10 seconds, 15, and it should appear in the bottom since there are no votes.
Yeah, no, I don't see it. I'll try it again. I'll try it again, I guess.
Thank you, Perry. Yeah, I forgot to mention, but Perry's also making a proposal about a mission of Eden+Fractal too. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. And thank you very much, Perry. I think now's a good time to go into the breakout rooms, being that we're a few minutes over time. So basically, for Victor, because it's your first time here, people in the room can explain how it works to you. But we're going to do this breakout room for about 55 minutes until about 17 UTC. And we're going to play the Eden+Fractal game where we share our contributions and elect delegates and give each other respect. But we can go into more detail in the breakout rooms, and I'll start it now so we don't get too delayed off schedule. Opening it now, and I hope everybody has an awesome time. There's 2 breakout rooms.
Hey everyone, be right
Hey.
back.
Hi.
How's everyone doing?
Fantastic.
Nice. Same here. Does anybody want to kick us off and share contributions or any other thoughts first? I'll just briefly note that I completely forgot to make a presentation this week, like I normally do. So I'm just going to try to pull up some quick windows that I can briefly show when it's my turn. But if somebody else could go first, then I would appreciate that.
Go freestyle.
Go freestyle. Well, I'll have to wrap it then in that case. So I went to Eden+Fractal now. I'll have to wait for Douglas for that part. I mean, I could try freestyle because that's what most people do. And I've always just done the visual presentation. I'm surprised more people don't do the visual presentation because it makes it so much easier to like just remember what to say and show people. I could try it, but I feel like it's probably best off if I have a couple pictures so I can remember what I'm saying. So I'm not saying and all sorts of stuff like that constantly.
Okay, I can go first. So I've been focusing on smart contracts for Sociocratic. Maybe some of you don't know, but now Matthias from Zeos, he is looking to start the Sociocratic, and it has a specific purpose. He wants to decentralize the contract, so he doesn't want to hold the keys from the Zeos main contract, and for that he would like to use the process that we have developed here to decentralize it. So that's what I'm focusing on, and yeah, going well. Yesterday we had a call with Matthias like for almost 4 hours, and really the topics, yeah, are deep with him. I would say very heavy call. Yeah, everybody is welcome to join. There's gonna be a developer call every week, and also he's planning to start just also fractal meetings, but in the beginning just without this ranking, just discussions, and then slowly transition to what we are doing once we are ready with the software. So yeah, that's it from me.
Awesome. Thank you, Vlad. That sounds like a fun and insightful 4-hour call. And I'm glad to hear that you're making really cool progress there, and I'm really excited about it as well. Thank you so much. Do you want to pick another person to go next, or does anybody have any questions or comments?
Tadas, what have you been up to?
Thanks. Yeah, okay, so what I will demonstrate what I've been up to. I'll try to share a screen. Wait a second. Yeah, this. Yes, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, so the idea is to create a tool which would help us with these meetings. Basically a consensus building tool. And to do it in a quickest way possible, reusing existing basically tools, like in this case I'm decided to use Telegram because I think for consensus building chat functionality is very useful, so it might make sense to base it on that. Yeah, so here we have a group chat with 9 accounts. Basically it's me and bots, all kinds of bots. This is basically my development environment, so I just didn't want to bother real people. So yeah, basically it's me and 8 other bots. And yeah, so I added this button here, create breakout groups. I now clicked it, and in the finished product you should now be seeing some kind of waiting animation. It's basically now creating breakout new groups in Telegram, and it should soon appear. A message should soon appear with links to these groups. Let's see. Okay, I think it's too long already. Okay, so yeah, I just did it, but so it's still in early development, so it's no wonder that it failed on a first demonstration. But yeah, so I can still demonstrate other parts of it. So basically, it creates these kind of groups. Like here you see, it's in this case it was creating groups of 3 or 4 members. It will be easy to change to so that it creates groups of 4 members. And I added a couple of other buttons like this. It automatically creates polls to vote on rankings. So basically, instead of using Zoom chat to vote on ranks, we can still do a countdown and then basically press our vote. and we will see the result. And additional button to have a poll to select a delegate. Yeah, so it's basically I just started developing this yesterday, and it seems like it's going pretty well. I mean, it seems that it's possible to have a pretty useful tool based on Telegram. Basically, the way this works, I just forked the Telegram web app, which is a single page application. I already tried it to deploy it on GitHub pages. It works. And yeah, I basically modified it to automate some of these tasks like group creation and poll creation. Yeah, so that's the idea.
That's cool. That means the polls are kept in our community in the chat, and we don't lose them in Zoom. Lost forever.
Yes, that's one of the advantages.
Mhm.
Seems pretty cool. How does it link then? How I'm thinking how the accounts are linked. So the Telegram account with the Zoom account or with the EOS account, or based on what does it create the groups?
Yeah, currently it doesn't link with external accounts, but I'm thinking that basically maybe it would be would be easier to create one group for each meeting, and I will probably try to add some kind of button to log in with EOS account, log in with Anchor, and so this client will then track EOS accounts, and yeah, and it will you will then be able to vote and see the EOS accounts of next to Telegram accounts, for example. And also at the end of after we reach the breakout, after we reach consensus in breakout rooms, I was thinking that we could generate a link to your app, Vlad. We could encode consensus results in as JSON. I think it's possible to encode JSON in the URL. And so if we modified your app to be able to parse this URL, it could automatically fill in the fields with the consensus we reached here.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I've been also thinking about consortium and Telegram integration, because there was some in the Eden group as well. Some CDs shared the polls, but still there is a lot more activity in Telegram, like a lot more. And if that could be some way linked, that would be nice. Yeah. Interesting. I will. Is it GitHub? Is it public? Can I look?
It's currently it's not deployed. The latest version is not deployed yet. The code is public already. I will share the link to the code, and I will share the place where it will be deployed once I finish. Once I have a ready version.
Cool.
Yeah, very cool. I also have a couple quick questions I want to ask you, Tadas. Thanks so much. This is really exciting. And so, yeah, I was listening. I listened again to our update that we did with Patrick a couple months ago, the update 3 on Nova Crypto channel. And I was listening closely again to the part that you're talking about recent updates with Albedo that you were working on at the time, and I think you still are working on. And I believe that the new, if I'm not mistaken, the new idea for fractal blockchains, you're developing a technology called Firmament. And this, I remember some weeks ago you said that you were messing around with some Solidity code, working with EVM. So I'm wondering if this relates, like, is this something that, is this Telegram integration something that works with the Albedo and Firmament and slow blockchains idea? And then secondly, I'm also wondering if you've communicated or followed the work of Luca Persic, who is also developing a Telegram bot for Eden.
Yes, so regarding the first question, yeah, the way I imagine that my firmament app to work is that it will only be a consensus signaling app, and so to properly demonstrate this consensus signaling app, I think I will need a proper consensus building app, which we don't yet have, and so that's how it relates with what I've been working on as far as Albedo. It's basically Eden+Fractal needs something like this anyway. Well, some kind of consensus building tool, and my Albedo project needs to demonstrate the idea. It needs some consensus building tool as well. So it's, yeah. And regarding the other question, Luca Persis, I'm aware of what he's developing. He's going in a bit different direction. He's developed a bot, Telegram bot, to help with Eden elections, and it integrates with existing Eden contracts. Here I'm doing a bit different design.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Adas, for doing that and also explaining it. Really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to the next steps. Does anybody else have any other thoughts, or Tadas, is there anything else you want to add, or do you want to nominate somebody to go next?
Yeah, maybe Perry, you can go.
Okay, thank you. Well, this last week, other than lots of reading and video watching, I took the time to create a proposal based on last week's meeting. And it's a kind of an integration of the proposal that is on the table. Who's the author of the previous one? Is it Vlad or Tadas? Which one?
I did it.
The Vlad, okay. So I like the premise of your proposal because it's very general, and that's a good thing. But I also think it's also good to have something very specific, and this is what I talked about last week. And so I've kind of integrated those two ideas, something very general for the group, and then a very specific task. And if this is the appropriate time to talk about that, then I'm happy to do that. Otherwise, I'll wait for my turn. Is this the right time to integrate, to introduce my proposal, or do I wait?
It can be. It's up to you. So this is a time generally to share your contributions, and so making a proposal for the mission is certainly a form of a contribution. And then also we have the cagendas, valendas kind of process afterwards, where we can get more into the details with the full community and discuss it in more details. But if you want to share in details here as part of your contributions, then you're welcome to. Okay, I will do that. I'll read the proposal. I'll read the mission, which comes in a mission statement and a vision statement. And the mission statement reads, and this is from Vlad's. The first part is from Vlad's. To foster an open and collaborative environment of the community, preventing its capture by centralization using technology and processes to decentralize control of our communal spaces. The vision for it, because oftentimes vision statements come along with mission statements, the vision is to join the subtle arts of true democracy, which is the subtitle for Dan's book, Dan Larimer's book, to join the subtle arts of true democracy and blockchain-based fractal electoral processes with the responsibility of securing social media accounts, groups, channels, sites, and anything that controls communal mediums of our decentralized community. Act as a governing estate and counterbalance to any power concentrated by the governing estates empowered by token inflation and the Cantillon effect.
and I'll go back and explain these briefly. And then I have a link to the Cantillon effect. And then I have a quote from somebody who's quite famous, who made this statement: "Permit me to issue and control the money of a nation, and I care not who makes the laws." And that's by Rothschild. And that's a famous statement. And some people disagree where that came from. I don't think it really matters, because the important point is I think it's fairly true. And I want to add to that, or modify that. Permit us to control the medium upon which we interact, and we care less who controls the money, and not at all who makes the laws. So if you control the media, that's really what that's saying, is if you control the media, you have huge influence over the money supply and the lawmaking. So for me, this seems to be the highest calling for this group. This seems to be something very specific and very valuable to not only this group, not only Eden, not only EOS, not only crypto, but if decentralized governance is to grow, and I think we all believe that that's what is going to happen if we're lucky, if we're successful. This is decentralizing control of the media itself is one of the highest, if not the highest order callings that we can have. That's my proposal. For people who aren't familiar with the concept of a state, not everybody's used to that word, so I'm going to explain that a little bit, and also the Cantillon effect. An estate it has different meanings, but in the context of governance, it's one of it refers to like the different branches of government. So in the United States, we have the legislative, we have the executive, and we have the judicial branches, those three branches, and they all balance each other. And many people think or refer to a fourth estate, which is the media. And so that's what I'm referring to as these estates. And we can think of the ENF as kind of representing an estate receiving the inflation. And I believe there needs to be a balance to that, to wherever the money is being printed. And the Cantillon effect is really just a money printer go burr. It's essentially quantitative easing. It's the printing of money. Cantillon was a French-Irish economist a few hundred years ago, and he was famous for coming up with this effect, which means essentially the first people to receive the new money in an economy have an advantage over over successive groups of people that have received that money, in that when they receive it, the quantity of money is in the whole economy is less than later down the road when after that quantity of money has been absorbed by the economy and prices have begin to rise to reflect the increase in the quantity of money, right? You have more money chasing the same amount of products, the prices of all the products are going to go up. So they have an inherent advantage. And this is essentially what goes on in the world right now. The big banks are the first ones to get the money. They receive that money and then they loan it out to large corporations, and the large corporations and banks, they loan it out to the regional banks, the regional banks to the local banks, and and so on and so forth, and to the large wealthy individuals who have the borrowing power. So this Cantillon effect is essentially why Bitcoin was created. This is the essence, this is the trigger for the big bang of crypto itself. And I believe that we require that we need this kind of that the check on the power of media is a check on whoever controls that money, whoever controls the money supply, whoever controls the quantity of money, whoever controls the printing of money. So I try to put it as succinctly as possible. That's my first attempt. So thank you, gentlemen, for listening to that. Thank you. That's my proposal.
Thank you, Perry. I have some thoughts to see Vlad unmuted. You want to respond to that first, Vlad?
A few thoughts as well. I'll be quick. First, I like the quote. Great quote. It's absolutely like that.
This first one or the second one?
The permit to issue and control money.
Okay.
And in regards to the second or the middle part of the proposal, preventing its capture by centralization using technology and processes, I see what you mean. Well, I see the middle part and the last part like two separate circles. The whole circles could focus on that. So the middle part is like, I see it as a policing force. So if we look at like traditional big corporations, sometimes the board of directors have some kind of another overseers board who essentially controls the, or not controls, but oversees what the board of directors is doing. So maybe that's even a separate circle. And also the third part, I've also read that it's a problem, like, okay, who holds all the social media accounts? And again, that I also see it as a separate like marketing department that should somehow have this method of how the keys go from one board to another. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
Okay, very good, very good. Is the plan to make circles inside of Eden? Is that been decided, or is that just we're in the process of deciding whether we go down that road? The reason I ask is because I'm not really a big fan of circles. I think each fractal should be its own circle. That's my take on it at the moment. I'm not a fan of Eden on EOS having a bunch of circles. My preference would be that the highest order DAO, in this case Eden on EOS, should be the absolute simplest that we could possibly make it. So the maintenance of the electoral process itself, the actual code and the running of it is as simple as we can make it. I mean, whatever that means, reducing the surface area for attack and compromise, because I think that's the biggest risk, is that those things get taken over. Like, for example, during the last one, or during any one, I am a developer and I have the ability to go in and check the code and verify everything if I decided I wanted to dive into that and learn it and take the time to look. But I haven't done that. And I know most other people haven't done that. I don't know who's running the random generator for deciding who goes into what rooms. Who knows exactly how it's being decided? I don't know.
Well,
and that applies to every aspect of the election. So how is that being checked? So that with that in mind, my idea is that it needs to be as simple as possible. So the idea of having circles here and there and everywhere, and now we're just kind of recreating all of the details and all the possible attack vectors, and that seems to be the wrong direction. So I'm not for circles for that reason.
all right. You have thoughts about that, Vlad?
Yeah, it just, for me, the circles is very new concept. I understand it comes from the holacracy and Like it really depends how we define circles. It's, in some sense, I view it as some kind of department, but more like autonomous. So yeah.
Yeah, I'll just jump in here, Perry, because we've been on this topic for a while, and we do have to try to also keep the schedule because we only have about 28 minutes, and we still have 3 people who have to give have to share their contributions and then reach consensus on a delegate and respect. If you want to share a brief response, then feel free. But I wanted to just one remind us about that time, because usually we only take like maybe 5 minutes or so on each contribution, but we've been talking this for more like 10, 15 minutes maybe now. But it's a really fascinating conversation, and I really enjoy and appreciate it too. I think that, I mean, the circles also confuse me quite a lot too, and I'm learning with the holacracy. It depends how you define it, I think. And then, yeah, I love your passion and alignment and figuring out a way that Eden+Fractal can help with this, and I agree. And I also appreciate you sharing those hopeful insights about the Cantillon effect and the importance of decentralizing control of media and communication channels and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to discussing that more. I also want to just welcome Joe as well. I'm not sure if we've spoken. I've spoken with somebody in the EOS community named Joe before, but thanks for joining, and feel free to introduce yourself as well. And well, Joe, do you have any comments? And then Perry, do you have any thoughts about that, or should we move on to the next contribution now?
No, let's go ahead and move on. I'll if I have anything else to say, I'll move it to the next session. Mr. Mockingbird, have you gone? I don't think you've gone. Mr. Sparro, Signor Sparro. No, not here.
Yeah, no, I'm here. I haven't gone, and there's some instructions about, so you may hear some, explosion stuff. Not really. Yeah. All right. So I did an end of year thing for EOS. May not be published yet. May still be in translation. It'll come out on EOS support, and there's a section on Eden. That goes back the full year, and that covers fractal genesis, because that happened this year. Comments of Dan throughout the year, how they progressed, how fractal genesis grew and then shrank and then died. How the Eden+Fractal, I kind of portrayed as and kind of replaced it, and kind of a bridge between Fractally and Eden EOS. Now has its own process, again, as the Eden EOS, of course. And that section is about a paragraph, but there's maybe 10 links in there right here. And I'll pass it on to Joe, I guess.
Joe looks like he's connecting.
Yeah, Joe's connecting with the audio. I can go next if that sounds good, because it's Victor's first time too. I should have also mentioned exactly what we're doing here to Victor. So I'm still not sure if you can hear us. So please speak up and share your thoughts, Victor. Unless you just want to listen, I suppose that's okay too. But I would love to hear from you. But just to provide a quick overview, in case you're not familiar, we've each been sharing our contributions to what we've been doing to help EOS and Eden this week, or just in general. And then at the end, we'll reach consensus about what contributions are more valuable and most valuable and so forth, and then elect a delegate and so forth. I see you unmuted. Yeah, I would love to hear from you. And you want to introduce yourself or share your contributions or ask any questions?
Yes, I'm happy to meet you guys. My name is Mpalani Vincent Victor.
Sounds great, Victor. And I'll say Victor because that's what Jesse mentioned, and I'm still not. You said Palani, and I'm happy to meet you as well.
Yeah, I'm from Uganda, Africa. Yeah, I've been on EOS since Genesis since 2018. I worked with EOS Nation and EOSBs, and I'm glad to be part of this conversation. The only thing I can say about is I'm glad to be part of EOS, and it's a good opportunity, and I would wish to extend more and more education about EOS to my community over here in Uganda and Africa at large. So, and I'm very grateful for also the EOSBs for the work they have done to educate people and make sure that EOS is known even on Twitter, because they organize many Twitter spaces so that our people can get to understand EOS better. So the other contribution I would make is about how best we can promote EOS. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
We can hear
I'm just
you.
wondering,
We can't see you. We can't
Am
see
I
you,
on-
Victor. We'd like to
Yes?
see. We'd like to see you.
Oh, you would like to see me? My light is not so good, so that's why I'm using audio. But
Oh, you,
never mind. Next time I come, I'll do the video.
okay, sounds good. I'm looking forward to that. And if you do want to turn it on now, I don't mind the bad light too, but it's up to you. And yeah, feel free to continue with what you're saying there too. You're saying a lot of interesting stuff.
It's part of how we operate, right?
Okay, let me try.
It's not important if it's perfect. It's not important if it's
Okay. Okay. Are you able to see me?
handsome guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
That's all.
everyone is able to see me.
We just need to see you. That's all.
Yeah, that is amazing. So what I was saying is that we can do more with promoting EOS. For example, keeping on organizing meetups so that other people can also get to physically understand what EOS is about. And maybe we can copy something from Binance is doing. Binance is doing a lot in Africa, because for them, they organize many meetups in Africa so that they get the population get to understand about Binance. So if we copy the same, I think EOS will be known to most of the communities here. Yes. That is my contribution. Maybe I don't know if I can go further, but as for now, that's what I can contribute.
When you're new, your greatest contribution is just arriving.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate very much that you joined and shared. And also, it sounds like you've been contributing for a long time, since 2018, with the Ugandan EOS community and EOS Nation and EOSBs. So it seems like you've been making really helpful contributions for a long time. So thank you so much. And it's a pleasure to meet you. And yeah, thanks for joining and sharing everything with us.
Thank you.
Just one question I wanted to ask, because Jesse mentioned Victor, but do you prefer to be called Victor or Palani?
Any, but you can call me Victor, because Victor is the easiest name.
Okay, cool. Sounds great. Thank you, Victor. And also thank you for turning your camera too. Your lighting is actually pretty good, and it's great to see you. It brings so much more to the experience of meeting you and so forth. So I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd also be interested to hear. So we only have 18 minutes left, and I still have to give my contributions, share my contributions, and then we have to do the consensus. So we should probably be pretty quick, but there's lots of questions that I'd love to ask you, Victor. And I'll be curious to ask how you found out about Eden+Fractal and what your thoughts are so far at some point. But I suppose that in the interest of time, we should probably move on unless you want to share anything else quickly, Victor, or if anybody else wants to share any thoughts or questions for Victor. And if not, then I'll go ahead and we can discuss that later. Cool. So I'll share my contributions this week. I got together a little presentation. I've just pulled up some tabs and windows. So I wish everybody a happy new year from the Eden Creators Telegram, or the Eden in Telegram and also Twitter. And I put together some art that was made previously, and I added Happy New Year here. So, and then I also put out a tweet on the 31st, just before the end of the new year, summarizing Eden+Fractal meeting number 28. I talked about how we cooperate after playing Eden+Fractal, which was a big mission and goal and project for our community over the past couple months. And we approved 3 proposals about that in 3 weeks. Very much thanks to Tadas for putting that together, and also Vlad and many other people for helping to contribute a lot as well. So I shared the video, and then I shared the recap from Lenny as well. And then I also put out a couple other tweets, one reminding people what the Eden+Fractal game is, because a lot of people don't know still. So I'm talking about how we're playing it every week for 3 months, and I shared how it helps empower collaboration, and I shared the podcast that I made with Tadas, Creator Talk, a couple of weeks ago, that I released a couple weeks ago, to share it. I should also hit the retweet button while I'm here. I forgot to retweet that. And then I also made some timestamps and a bit of a description to show when Tadas was introduced the new proposals, so people can watch that. And then also when I was elected as moderator, and I shared this in a bunch of groups to help update people about the progress of Eden+Fractal, put a lot of work into making the art look cool and stuff like that. And then I also talked about it on the Eden Town Hall. So I hosted the Eden Town Hall and talking with Chris, Joran, Lenny, and Patrick. And we talked for about an hour and 15 minutes and talked a lot about Chris's experience with the Eden Smart Proxy. I also featured I made a little presentation about what we did with Eden+Fractal, and then talked a lot about the Eden Smart Proxy, and also Daniel Schmachtenberger, humanity solving crisis kind of things that Reichi's talking about that I'm really inspired by. So I published that like kind of lately. I didn't really publish it yet, but I just published a link and I put it together real quick. So I'll publish that more in the future, as well as many others. Last week, I started putting together a page for each Eden+Fractal meeting. So this is edenfractal.com/28, where there's show notes for each meeting, where people can watch the video as well as a little introduction, and then see like the timestamps. And for this one, I also included some of the proposals that we approved, so people can click on these and look into each of the proposals, as well as just scroll down and see the timestamps. These are still works in progress. I'm looking forward to improving them a lot more. Like the text is, like the font is weird, so I have to make some fixes here and add some things, but these are kind of just a first draft, so people could see like the proposals in one spot and see everything in one spot. And also include like the brainstorming sessions that helped make that proposal. And I also did a sort of a similar thing. I updated the edenfractal.com/videos page a little bit this week. And I just added a little bit of an introduction here, working on a page for interviews and showing each meeting, and then added some art and updated the recent meetings with the show notes and so forth. I also did similar things for Eden+Fractal 29, although it's a little bit less developed, but it has table of contents with timestamps and stuff like that for Eden+Fractal 29, where we played with Lenders for the first time, and Vlad proposed the what is the mission of Eden+Fractal topic. And then also for meeting 30 as well, I put together a similar thing with brief show notes, and also included the position paper and some other things we talked about, so people can click on there to jump to each timestamp. I also spent a while this week working on the MSIGs. I was in communication in the Antelope developers chat because Patrick wasn't here, so I was trying to get this signed so Gavriel and other people could make polls and everybody can get their respect. So there's lots of chats that I didn't have a chance to take a picture of, but in Telegram I basically made lots of messages both about that, and then also in the Eden+Fractal Telegram about what people were talking about, and then just in the Eden members chat too. I responded to Lovejoy and Gavriel and a bunch of people who are quite active in the Eden community, helping to promote Eden and Eden+Fractal and so forth. I also worked on it's like kind of like an introductory rule set, or like rules / like game instructions that Perry had mentioned 2 weeks ago, and also Noah mentioned last week. That'd be really cool to have like a 1-page summary of what we do. So I was working on that for a while. I just picked up a page of the cool looking chessboard here because I figured it might be something to show, but I'll show that hopefully next week. And then in addition, I also interacted with Gavriel's post. So I read what he was talking about governance meetings with the holocratic or sociocratic governance method, and I voted on it and I replied there. And then I also made a few other proposals. One following up on Vlad's mission for the mission of Eden+Fractal. I just kept what Vlad had word for word, except I had to create public goods because I think that's a really important part of the Eden+Fractal mission. So that's something we can discuss afterwards after Gavriel's. And then I also made 3 quick proposals for topics about just like New Year discussion and a potential Eden+Fractal agreement where people agree to be on videos and speak English and stuff like that. And then I see Perry's one now got uploaded too, so people can see Perry's here. So thank you, Perry, for making that. It looks like it got through, and thanks for the detail. And then I also made one about how to proceed with the Eden+Fractal MSIG, because as Patrick wasn't here, we were a bit delayed, and it's good to upgrade that. But yeah, basically that's that. And I'll also end it on a nice note. Oh, nope, that wasn't it. Oh, I want to say Happy New Year. Okay, cool. And that's that. Oh, whoops, hit the wrong button.
I want to know if anybody has watched Dan's EOS hot soft videos at 2x speed. If anybody watched that, it's quite an experience. Just 2x.
Have you done that, Perry?
I actually had, just to see what it sounded like. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's like listening to mice play.
Wow, cool. I'm glad you. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'd be interested to hear that too. I imagine it might be difficult to keep up with everything at 2x speed because there's a lot going on.
Difficult at 1x as well.
Okay, well, yeah, if I do go too fast, if it is difficult, I don't know if you're joking there, but I can try to slow down if you think it'd be helpful to slow down in general.
It would take the entire hour to pack all that thing at regular speed.
Well,
Lots of content.
You need to just do less, Dan. Let's face it.
Okay, well, I can I'll take that feedback into account. Should we do? I see Victor left, unfortunately, which I don't know if he'll join back, but hopefully he'll join back. I don't know his EOS account, so if we can give him respect, that would be cool. But does anybody have any other questions or thoughts for me or anybody else in the group before we go into consensus?
Where did you post the rules?
I didn't post those yet.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
Yeah, that was something I worked on for several hours this week, and it's coming along well, and I have it on my private notes. I'm hoping to publish it by next week.
Okay.
I think we should vote for only 10 minutes left.
I agree.
This is gonna be a tough room. Jesus Christ.
I agree. I guess it gets a little less tough now that Victor is here, because I wanted to show Victor a lot of respect because he seemed like a really awesome guy and he's doing a lot of really helpful work. So I was like, I don't know what to do here, but I guess since we don't know his EOS account, then we can't do it. So that makes it a little bit easier. All right, is everybody ready for level 6?
Yes. And we're just going by names on Zoom here. Yeah.
You could just use first name.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and in the Zoom chat. Okay, if everybody's ready, then we can do it at the count of 3, 2, 1, and go. Okay, so Vlad has 1, Tadas has 2, Perry has 1, and Marco has 1. So we have to reach consensus. So far, most have Tadas. Would anybody like to share your reasoning for your votes?
Well, we're pretty spread out.
I'll say that I voted for Tadas because I mean, in general, just Tadas is doing amazing work, and I really appreciate that. And I thought that sharing the screen and the work that you're doing with the Telegram bot is really exciting. That's super helpful for, I think, the Eden+Fractal community and many other communities. VOD's also doing great work, which is similar along different lines. So, as I said before, it's difficult, but that was one of the reasons why I voted for Tadas. And I also always appreciate screen sharing too. When people share their screen, that's always a plus for me because I think that's really helpful for everybody to see what they're doing.
Okay, I changed my vote to myself just to move on quicker. Yeah, and I also wanted to vote. Well, anyway, let's just vote on for level 5 maybe.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I see Marco also changed to Tadas, so Tadas has 4 out of 5 consensus now. And is everybody ready for a level 5? 1, 2, and 3, and go. It looks like one person hasn't voted yet. Vlad? Okay. So Vlad has 3 votes, Perry has 1, and Mock EOY end of year has 1. See, David just is joining the room, so I'll invite him here. Vlad has 3 out of 4. Does anybody want to share their reasoning? I kind of shared a bit of my reasoning before, because I think that what Tadas and Vlad are hold on one second, Elias. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I totally forgot to record it after I came back. So I'm very sorry that we didn't record that. I had the internet issue before and I just completely forgot. So completely my fault. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, Elias, too. Over the past half hour now, we've been discussing Gavriel's proposal for coordinating our meetings with the Sociocratic method. So people can't watch that, but we've been having very interesting sessions, and that's I'm very sorry for forgetting that. But I just wanted to start recording and just make that note. But yeah, please feel free to continue now. Sorry about that.
Yes. So yeah, Gav. So one half of the question is, what does purpose mean, and how is it different for a decentralized organization from versus a company? The half of that question is, do you know if any other decentralized blockchains actually use holacracy? And then I have a third question. I forgot what it was, but if you do you want to start with those?
Let me start. Let me start there. So holacracy is a business application of sociocracy. Sociocracy comes earlier. Sociocracy itself is used far and wide in all sorts of organizations, communities, intentional communities, not-for-profits, etc., etc., etc. Holacracy was adapted from it for the purpose of business, because holacracy takes a very open framework that sociocracy provides and tries to distill it in a very step-by-step rigid format that suits more of a corporate kind of style. But the questions, the 4 rounds that I've suggested, is the same across both sociocracy. It comes from sociocracy originally. Do I know if other blockchains specifically are using these processes? I actually don't, and I'm very keen to push that agenda through Eden and Eden+Fractally, if we can make use of it. It is covered in the DAO report that I wrote, that Helios published not that many weeks ago, where I go into these topics. And I believe, and that's why I said at the beginning of this presentation, my proposal is that I believe the use of Sociocratic governance is sorely missing from the general blockchain community. It's as if we developed the technology And it's like the analogy, if everything, if all you have is a hammer, then everything looks like a nail, right? We had this technology and we wanted to do one like a tokenized voting, etc., and we forgot the heritage of distributed governance that sociocracy has well developed since the 70s. I do not actually know if other chains are using or to what extent they're using it, and I would love to find out and push that agenda.
Could you comment on the importance of purpose, though? I don't feel like we have that strong of a purpose. It seems like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I'm not proposing what the purpose is of Eden+Fractal. I think my personal reaction to Vlad's proposal last week was that it was good enough for now and safe enough to try, and I had nothing to object about it because it wasn't going to cause me harm in trying to support Eden+Fractal. And so it would have been like, for me, it would have been a 2-minute meeting. If all of us are efficient and familiar enough with these 4 simple steps, sometimes, yes, conversations have to be longer. I'm not saying make conversations short just for the sake of it. But the conversations can be clear and efficient and productive, and we can cycle through more proposals. And then what the purpose is of Eden+Fractal can evolve, and the purpose of Eden+Fractal is absolutely not what I'm trying to suggest in my proposal today.
Yeah, no. So what I meant was, and I'm clarifying here. In the steps, it says, would not cause me harm in the purpose of our community or org. Our org doesn't really have a purpose. I mean, not just because it's not defined by Vlad yet, which is, by the way, I like this idea. I'm going to vote for this, that we go for. I'm not a delegate, but I support it. But just to clarify, we don't have a purpose since it cannot cause me harm, since we don't have a purpose. It's kind of a loop. But yeah, we do have to kind of get up. I think we need a purpose, essentially.
I agree, and yeah, I agree. That makes sense. I see the loop there, and my suggestion would be to pass Vlad's proposal using this sociocratic governance model quickly and efficiently, and then we'll have a purpose, and then we can build on it with Eric's and Perry's and everyone else's proposal to refine and advance that purpose. But at least we didn't have to go around the houses as we did last week, because I saw no harm in Vlad's proposal. I think it was a good one to get us started because it was good enough for now, safe enough to try. Then we will have purpose, and then we can build on top of it.
I've got some other questions. Marco, if you want, my other questions are different. So do you want to go now, Marco, or should I throw?
There's also some thoughts I wanted to share too. And I was going to go jumping in before Marco, but yeah, Marco, do you have any questions asking for clarity about Gavriel's proposal?
Well, Lies, if you want to finish what you were saying, Dan.
Yeah.
And then I'll get into what it was.
Okay, thanks, Marco. Yeah, do you want to ask those, Lies? You said they're different, or are they still related? Do you want to ask them, or should I go first?
Yeah, no, if it's about this topic, Dan, go ahead. Mine
okay.
Are, other questions.
Okay, cool. I'm looking forward to hearing your questions and your thoughts, Marco, and thank you. And mine, so I'm not asking questions particularly here, but I just wanted to give a little bit more summary for anybody who's watching on the video and missed out because it cut out for a while. One thing is that all delegates are present, so we can vote on this proposal. We have about 15-20 minutes left to be able to vote on proposals. Vlad also mentioned that if we're quick, we can vote for the mission as well, which relates to what Gavriel was just talking about. The second topic with the most votes right now is to set the mission. So if we do want to try to discuss both topics, then we potentially could. And then just as a summary too, Gavriel gave a great explanation about this earlier, and we had great talks. But you can see in the Eden+Fractal Telegram chat, lots of discussion about it as well as his proposal. And then at some point we can maybe get a recording so people can learn. We also came to consensus, by the way, that David, he joined late, that he'd reached level 1 because we didn't do that already. So once again, sorry for the recording difficulties. But yeah, I just want to give a little logistical update there. And then Marco, do you want to share your thoughts? I see Tadas has his hands up as well. And then we can move on to reactions phase 2, because we still haven't really gotten into that yet. But so far, we're still in clarity. If Marco or Tadas have questions asking for clarity for Gavriel's proposal.
Well, first I'd like to say we haven't adopted the proposal, and it seemed like giving it a try during this hour that's elected for the delegates to vote on proposals is frankly dangerous. And by Gavriel's own admission, he acknowledges a loop of the lack of purpose. So I think if while Gavriel did get the most votes, I think that constitutes voting for the mission statement. Again, I believe mission statements are not anything to dive into hastily, even though we can change them. But I think we should consider just doing that first and then getting next week into the one Gavriel, especially since he said it was under the purpose would bring forth. Now, I do like it a lot. I do love the idea of integrity and making integrity the first thing of every proposal. As I said, I've been aware of that for a while. And what Elias had said about our if we're big enough or whatever it was. So again, I like having a more lax look into it. The one thing I wanted to bring up is it seems like Gavriel is set on this democratic thing, and as I was introduced to it, it can be applied beyond that. So I would ask, not as part of the process, but just do you believe this system, this 4-step system, could be included into a democratic republic? Now, I'm not advocating for it. Again, I believe both systems are ancient for what we're doing now. And I believe because we have smart contracts exist as a final solution, and they can exist as a form of mediation that we didn't have before. I believe both democracies and republics are not part of crypto's future. I believe some form of the independent mediation that aviation employs and taking the best of each. So just to see if Gavriel is a democratic fanatic, if he sees the process being applied beyond the democracies, and a democratic republic is close. So I use that as an example.
Yeah, so this process of sociocratic governance, these 4 steps, basically the first step is to listen to each other. And that can be applied to any good or bad political system that you like at the end of the day, however you vote for people and however you choose to empower people, that can all be done separately to this process of, first of all, listening to each other, hearing each other out. Hence, sociocracy uses the principle of everyone has a voice, or however they phrase it, and why the first round is clarification questions. Instead of talking over each other, instead of going around the houses and saying, well, I think we should be talking about this other thing, allow people to be heard. And that applies to everyone in this room.
Separate.
So it's completely separate to whether it's majoritarianism, democracy. It's just the process of, first of all, listening to each other, understanding each other's suggestion or idea, and then reacting, and then deciding how you want to take it forward.
Yeah, no, I'm for that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Marco and Gavriel. I think we can pass it on to Tadas now.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about how this is best integrated into our existing rule set. I don't know, maybe if Gavriel, if you gave any thought to it, because in my opinion, it would make the most sense to pass it as changes to moderator guidelines, which we already have passed. I guess it's a question for the whole community, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a strong view on how it's done. I don't know if that should be as comments after someone's published a proposal in consortium, or if it should happen in the Telegram group, or if it should happen on these Zoom calls weekly. I'm not sure. That's a great question in my mind. I don't know.
Yeah, and another thing, is it okay, for example, I would imagine we don't always have to go through all 4 rounds. If, for example, after third round, enough objections are heard, we can decide to skip the 4th round where the integration round, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can also just say pass, right? If you've got nothing that you really want to add or say or contribute, and just to reduce the length of time, you don't have to speak for the sake of speaking. So you just go around very efficiently around the group, and just people can pass and then move on to the next round. And yes, if there are particular objections that are recognized, then the proposer can say, I withdraw my proposal and I'm going to work on it based on these objections I'm hearing, and then come back to you another time. So we don't have to go through the entire thing person by person by person.
Yeah, I'll also add to this a bit, unless Satoshi want to add to that. Vlad wrote in the chat that he'd say we test it, and if it's good, add to the guidelines. I also interpret it as pretty similar to a moderation guidelines as well, so potentially could be added there. I wrote some messages in the Eden+Fractal Telegram chat about this, because I read both Gavriel's short proposal that he summarized it on Consortium, and then also in the link he shared at holacracy.org/governance-meetings. And there's much more details in the governance meetings article. Like I think Gavriel just mentioned there, like the objections that each person can have opportunity to object. And I thought that might be a bit more than necessary and make it less efficient if every single person does that, and we go around. And so we could just ask generally the group, or perhaps just ask delegates if they have objections. So these are things that we might want to consider if we want to specify these things. Also, Gavriel's proposal was kind of more casual, I think. He said, sounds okay, safe enough to try. Let's see how it goes in the next Eden+Fractal meeting. So that I don't know if passing this would I don't get the impression that it would be binding to do it in a very certain way. It seems like it's kind of a more general proposal, then we can refine it and specify it in the moderator guidelines after we try it. So that's a couple thoughts there. I see Gavriel gave a thumbs up for anybody who's watching. And with that, I suppose I can pass on to Elias now, who has his hands up. And we have about 8 minutes left if we do want to pass this proposal.
Okay, we have 3 technical questions. Does Haifa DAO use this concept? Number 2 is, in what step are recommendations given? And number 3, okay, go ahead.
So yeah, Reiki, who's helped to spearhead Haifa DAO, is a massive proponent of Sociocratic governance. To what extent Haifa uses the holacracy derivative of sociocracy in their platform, I think it's flexible, right? It can be used absolutely, or it doesn't have to be used in exactly the same way. I don't think Haifa is not a software implementation of holacracy per se, but absolutely fundamentally, Haifa is built on the basis of sociocratic governance, as per Reiki would attest to. Sorry, what was the second question and the third?
In what step are recommendations or improvements suggested?
That would be in the reactions round, right? So once we've clarified what the proposer means, then when we react, that's where we're sharing whatever comes up. It's like, well, I think maybe this would be better, or like suggestions, refinements, emotional reactions, etc. That would be in that round. And then once that's done, then we go around. Once the proposer has had a chance to respond, then we go to the objections round. So those suggestions would be in the reaction round.
Okay. The third one is a suggestion improvement. So I guess, are we doing a reaction round, guys, today? Or should I just throw it out here now?
Yeah, this is it. Well, we've kind of blended, yeah. But so yeah, I know you're still asking questions. So, and it doesn't seem like we have time to actually get to a proper full reaction round.
Yeah, the third question, I'll just throw it out there. It seems like that final step, integration round, if somebody, it seems like a perfect time to table it and save it for the next week and come back with the proposal again. That's
100%.
just, yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you, Elias. Really appreciate you asking all these thoughtful questions. It really helps me, and I think everybody understand this in more detail. And thanks once again, Gavriel, for bringing this to everybody. It's a really interesting idea. Vlad wrote in the message chat, quick vote, ? So if we do want to do a quick vote, then we could. As Gavriel said, we haven't really had a chance to get into their reactions and different discussions, mostly been clarification. Marco and Perry have their hands up. I don't know if any delegates want to voice. I think Elias just mentioned there, maybe I think he said pinholing and saving for next week. So that's another option too. And Marco also mentioned something similar about not rushing into it. But also, like I was saying, and like Vlad was saying, we could potentially do it and just kind of informally try it out. If anybody has any thoughts about what you think is best, then now might be good since there's 5 minutes left. And if not, then I'll pass it on to Marco.
Actually, mine kind of touches on what you said. You may remember back in the day with the Genesis Fractal, I brought up, should we vote for ourselves or not? It wasn't my idea. I just liked the option. And I brought it up because it was something that people had forgotten even back then, that how rooms come to consensus. Dan had said, Larimer had said, is up to them. So in any given week, rooms can use different methods of consensus. And early on we were. Now we use what I'm calling the 3-2-1 blind method, which people seem to take into heart. That's the danger of adopting something informally. It's a danger of modern governance. And because we have smart contracts, we don't need to resort to that. Or fall into that. I strongly believe that we should focus on purpose. And if there's an objection there, because Gavriel did touch upon it, and because this is his, not his brainchild, but because he resurrected this idea or introduced this idea here, we should consider how important it is to proceed first with purpose. And again, being a pilot, you want to make sure that when you're flying into an area, you at least get any major news storms. And that's how I see purpose and mission. It's the overriding thing. It's a thing that you want to be sure of. You don't want to take it lightly, even though we can change it. So I'd like to hear from Gavriel or anybody else on the idea of having a purpose first before bringing this into play. And again, I love he brings it up because I hadn't thought about this in a while, and I believe it is how we should do things. But for some reason, I get a feeling like we can simplify it, especially for the group, and they can dominate the conversation as it did today.
So my quick response, because of the timing, is that if my proposal doesn't cause harm to us being able to talk about purpose, then officially the proposal can still stand. If you think that my proposal causes harm and therefore you object, that's totally fine with me, totally comfortable with receiving that, in which case that would be your vote. But the two don't have to, they're not separate. My suggestion is that this proposal of how to communicate with each other and listen to each other, we could have already passed the mission and purpose that Vlad proposed last week, rather than however many weeks or more months of conversation and deliberation to reach consensus is going to be required to have our purpose. We can readily accept Vlad's proposal as the mission or the purpose and then refine it by using the very process that I'm trying to suggest.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I also saw in the chat, so Tadas wrote, yes, we could vote whether the moderator should try during next meeting, but wrote, yes, no danger here. Elias wrote, as a non-delegate, that sounds like a safe way to explore it more. Tadas, and Vlad said, no need to propose first, I think. And then Tadas suggests, should we try a discussion process described in this proposal during the next meeting? So also Elias asked, how is the moderator selected? The moderator selected via the Eden+Fractal process. I was elected as a moderator in week 28. And that could be same process for other moderators in the future. And yeah, it's a moderator's prerogative to how it's used, but the moderator has the moderator guidelines, and eventually this could potentially be added to the moderator guidelines. And for now, if we did vote for it this week, then I would definitely be willing to try it out. And I'll just share my reaction briefly. I think it's a good idea, and I think that Tadas's makes sense about Tadas's suggestion about doing a quick vote makes sense. As Gavriel was saying, I don't think that there's anything to lose here. Vlad mentioned it too, and I don't think that we need to do the mission or purpose first. So I'd be in favor of doing a quick vote. We also started a few minutes late, maybe 5 minutes late even. So all the delegates are here. So if I see Perry and Marco have more questions and more thoughts. So if we want to pass on to Perry and Marco first, or if we want to just do a quick vote before the end of the hour, and then we could do that as well, and then ask Perry and Marco for their thoughts afterwards. By the way, the current delegates are Eric and Tadas in this week's council, Gavriel and myself in last week's council, Patrick and Marco in Council 11, and Vlad and Eric in Council 10. So we do have enough delegates. I'll ask the delegates, what do you guys think? Should we just do a quick vote here before the end of the hour, or should we ask Perry and Marco to share their thoughts first, and then potentially do a quick vote after that?
Vote first.
Okay, we got a vote from Vlad for going first. Tadas, what do you think? And Eric?
My comment is brief, and I believe it will give some light. So I hope that you give me an opportunity to share it. I can do it in less than 1 minute.
Okay, as long as everybody's cool with, if nobody's got to go right now, then we can spend a few more minutes, because as we said, we did start 5 minutes late. So that sounds good with me personally.
There's another good meeting starting.
Yes, yes.
I have to go to that other meeting as well.
Okay, so should we just take a quick vote before we go, or
Yes.
I see Vlad is shaking his head yes, and so yeah, how about we just do that really quickly, and then if we have time, Perry, after that, if you could share it briefly. I think that's probably a good way to do it. I also want to hear from Perry too. If you wanted to summarize in like 10 seconds, that might be good, but I suppose I don't want to take everybody past their time.
I will. Consensus versus consent. What I interpret that as, currently consensus is a plus or a minus, a binary. Consent, when you vote yes, it's either a positive or a neutral. And that's one vote, that's a yes vote. And a no vote is simply a negative. So all it seems like it has been added is a neutral or a pass, which is the same as a positive vote. So when you vote yes on something, it could be that you support it or that you don't care. It's just, all you've done is just add a neutral to the binary. So now we have three choices, but they're still represented by either a yes or a no. That's it.
No, not exactly. And still, you got to read up on it. But what you're saying is, does it cause harm? Yes or no? Is it a good thing? Do you like it? Do you agree with it? It's just, does it cause harm? That's the yes or the no. So it's binary. Does it cause harm? That's consent. But it's a massive subject. Okay. I appreciate the confusion. It took me a long time.
I can say up until now, the process didn't cause harm. And now it does, I see, by giving the moderation, by giving the moderator more power, well, that centralizes a bit. So it's going to make the adjustment of having a separate person maybe be a mediator for the one who's in charge of ensuring this process. The moderator still does what he does now, and the mediator just focuses on Gavriel's proposal. That wouldn't cause harm.
Okay, thank you. Very thoughtful and helpful insights. Thank you, Marco, and thank you, Perry and Gavriel. Thank you, everybody. This discussion's been really cool. I think that we could probably take a quick vote as we suggested before, and just see what everybody thinks. Gavriel also wrote in the chat, integration. Yes, modify it to try it with moderator for next meeting. So yeah, I'll just say my own opinion here. I suppose we can vote in the chat, but I think it's a good idea just to try it out kind of informally, and then we can see how it works basically. But should we do this in the Zoom chat or with a raise of hands? I suppose in the Zoom chat might be best.
Yeah, Zoom chat, put it in the record. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's do them both. So there's both the visual and the other thing. I suppose a different. Oh, Tadas is raising his hand. Tadas, you have a thought here? Okay, sorry. I should probably manage this better. So everybody who agrees to this proposal, if you're a delegate, please raise your hand or give a thumbs up.
If you're a delegate.
Yes, you can feel free to raise your hand too, but only the delegates' votes are counted here according to the Eden+Fractal process. Tadas, do you have thoughts
Yes,
here?
Yeah, just to clarify, if I vote yes, I vote for the following sentence, which I just posted in the chat. Just to be clear that this is just as a guideline. I vote that we are passing this as a guideline for the moderator to follow next week. Yeah, so yeah, in that case, I vote yes.
Do you want to read that out? You wrote, should the moderator implement the discussion process described in this proposal during the next meeting? So that's what we're agreeing, like basically informal guideline?
Yes, informal guideline.
Okay. Yes, I agree to that then. We got agreement from Eric, from Tadas, from Vlad, and from Gavriel. And I think we don't have agreement from Marco. Is this, and we also have agreement from Perry as well. So the delegates and the council, I could maybe share the screen, but that would probably be confusing at this time. But Tadas is updating it as well.
Yeah, so Eric votes yes, right? I vote yes. Gabriel votes yes. Then you vote yes.
I also
right?
agree, but I can't use my button if that helps.
Sounds good. Thank you, David.
We don't have Patrick, and Marco votes no, so we don't have agreement from Council 11. We have agreement from Vlad, and we have agreement from Eric. I think we have passed it.
Yep.
Others, please check if I wrote in votes correctly.
Yep, correct.
Yep, looks correct. Okay, well, nice. Congratulations. Thank you, Gavriel, for sharing this once again and all the great discussions about this. I'm excited to try this process. I never heard of this process beforehand, but I think it can be really helpful, and it goes along with a lot of the moderation guidelines, and I think it's good. I think, Marco, you brought up really good points too. I wouldn't want to jump into the process as something that's formally binding or anything like that, but I think the fact that it's just kind of a casual moderation guideline is cool. So I'm looking forward to trying it next week. Tadas, you have your hand up.
Yeah. Yeah, so I wanted to respond to Marco. I don't think it centralizes power and too much in the hand of moderator. I mean, yes, it centralizes power in the moderator, but we already did that by passing previous proposals. But we also passed a proposal which have set really clear limits to what moderator can do, and it basically said that whatever moderator does, it cannot prevent us from electing a new moderator. Basically, yeah.
You are aware that we just changed the proposal here to include the moderator and pass that. So we just added the moderator thing without even going through consortium.
No, I mean, we already passed a proposal which defined the concept of a moderator and how it is being elected. We passed it on the previous.
We just gave the power. We just gave the power of the proposal from Gavriel to the moderator, all without going through consortium. So when people look back at consortium, they see the process, and they're going to need to see the video to see that the moderator is now included. This is why when I saw that happen, instantly I thought centralization instantly. I thought, well, if we can do that, then let's just get another person to be in charge of this process, because we just ran with it too far. At the very
I'm
least,
not.
someone should propose changing it, changing the consortium thing to add moderator, and then go back and vote on it, even if it is today. I mean, we've just jumped over one of the proposals that were already in place.
There's already been a proposal, Marco, to elect a moderator and set moderation guidelines. We did that in week 28, so this isn't
no, but
adding
the new
anything
power.
new.
No,
Well,
the new power. The power in the power in governance isn't what most people see. It's in the organizations that control like money or whatever it be, the councils, and that's what we just did. We just took a proposal that had nothing, that had no mention of moderation, and embedded it into the moderator. So now you don't need to have formal documentation or anything like that to enforce this. You can just do it as you'd like.
Didn't we just give a recommendation for how the moderator should process? Without this, Dan could have done this without us saying anything. He could say, I like this, I'm the moderator, I run this, here's how I'm going to do that. So Dan could have done this or not done it. All we did was put this in the recommendations to the moderator on how to run a meeting so far. No, it didn't change anything, because Dan could do this process or not do this as moderator. He has that power right now.
Well, it also means you can't change it. It also means you can't come in and say something's wrong. It's up to Dan to decide.
But he could do that right now. So if we wanted to change that, we need a new proposal to change the power of the moderator. We didn't change the power of the moderator at all.
I understood that the moderator didn't enforce everything that was involved here. I thought the moderator was just someone who governed the chats and daily. I didn't realize the moderator could change whatever happens here.
But the moderator, the role of the moderator is defined in the proposal that we passed in week 28. Basically, it's to help facilitate conversations, to help keep people on topic, and just give people good experience in that way. So all this did, I don't know if there's a misunderstanding, Marco, but I think that you're thinking that we proposed something bigger than we did. As Eric was saying, it's just a recommendation. There are protections from centralization that are built into DAS's previous proposal about the moderator and moderator guidelines. The Eden+Fractal Council can select a moderator, and the moderator can't stop the Eden+Fractal Council from passing proposals. And this is basically just a recommendation for the moderator. Instead of just basically asking people, like, what do you think about this proposal? It just gives me a bit more, or whoever is the moderator, a bit more guidance to say, okay, rather than just asking, what do you think of this proposal? First, I ask, okay, does anybody have any questions for clarification? And we ask that first. And then after that, then we don't do those things. So I don't see how you're thinking that adds more power.
I think here's my proof of concept. If it wasn't changing something, it would never have needed to be entered into the chat for clarification. There's a proof.
Yeah, so
it just as part of what you normally do, but to clarify that this process be enforced by the moderator, that's there's the thing.
Well, a couple of things here. One, Das has a hand raised, so I want to hear from Das. Two, several people had to go, and there is another meeting that is going on right now being hosted at Reiki, so we might want to end it in a few moments, but I'm also happy to stick around if people want to discuss this further too. We just want to put that out there. And then actually, I kind of lost my train of thought. There was something you wanted to add there to Das?
Yeah, just wanted to say again, I don't think it added new power to a moderator. Previously, we already said that we already basically got powers to the moderator during the meetings, except the only exception is that we can, whenever we want, we can change the moderator, and so I don't see how it gives any new power. And I wanted to make sure that this is passed as a moderator guidelines, because in order so that it is clear that so that it falls clearly into existing rule set, so that it's clear if it's a moderator guidelines, when it's clear that it is not higher than Eden+Fractal process. Because there is already, in the previous rules we passed it, we already defined that whatever moderator guidelines are, they cannot override the Eden+Fractal process. That's why I wanted to pass it as moderator guideline.
Yeah, and I think, sorry, I was going to say, I think the word enforce is strong too. Like technically in the moderator guidelines, Stas wrote that the moderator can mute people, but I really don't want to mute people. I'm just trying to help guide the conversations. And I think it's just kind of a gentle instruction. It is a behavior change, but it's not something like we can come to consensus about how we should act. And that's basically what we did here, but it's not something that's like a binding or something that I don't think provides any risk to the community. Elias, something you were saying there?
Last comment. Yeah, Marco, I don't think Gav knew about the moderator idea. And I think holacracy actually decentralizes. The moderator idea is the one that centralizes more. Because the moderator already has the power to do this. Yep.
It's just that we had to clarify, but I'll say this, Dan, I wasn't thinking about you. I was thinking we elect somebody that's not you.
Yeah, that's true. And that's good to think about because we are trying to build this for all communities and we wouldn't want to over empower a moderator and guidelines. But I think Tadas explained it well, though, that Tadas was very thoughtful to make sure that we weren't approving something that overrided the autonomy and independence of the council and the community as a whole. So I think that in this case, I appreciate you, Marco, very much for asking questions about it and looking at it from a critical lens, so we can make sure that we're not rushing into something that's detrimental for the community. But overall, I think this was a pretty simple proposal, just as a gentle guideline. Also, I saw Elias wrote in the chat a little while ago, is this only for next week? In the proposal, the one that had the most votes is safe enough to try, sounds okay. Let's see how it goes in the next few Eden+Fractal meetings. But also, I think basically a general consensus was that we would just try it out for next week and see how it goes. If it doesn't work out well next week, then I think that we could kind of informally agree to not do it again. Or if it works out well, then we can informally agree to do it for the next 5 weeks or, however long. But that's the answer to that. And I think the whole thing is rather informal consensus because it's a pretty informal proposal just about how we can cooperate and how we can moderate and facilitate discussions.
By the way, where's everybody going to this next meeting?
Great question, Marco. Thanks for asking. So Reiki is hosting a meeting with, it's called the Eden DGov Dialogues podcast, I believe. There's a link to the Zoom chat in the Eden on EOS public chat. I can find it. And it's also in the Eden members chat. Yep. And he's inviting people to join a discussion talking about basically how Eden can help solve humanity's problems. It's very inspired by a great thinker named Daniel Schmachtenberger. So him and I know Lovejoy's getting involved too, who's also very thoughtful in that area. And Vlad and Gavriel already went there, I think. I'm also going to go check it out and listen in, even though it'll be a bit late. But I think that'll be a really cool meeting. And then after that, there's also the fireside chat as well. And I'll share that in the chat. And I think we could wrap it up right now. Should we wrap it up on like a quick 1, 2, 3, go Eden or something like that?
Let's not steal Patrick's.
Sounds good. Okay, cool. Well, thanks, Evgeny, and thanks to Das. Really appreciate everything, and we won't steal it. Thanks to Patrick for probably watching this. Thanks everybody for watching, and yeah, we'll see you next week. And talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you.